Welcome to Novel Love Hearing. Get ready for heart-pounding action, thrilling adventures with fresh and unique elements, a touch of romance, and a dash of harem. Everything you're craving is right here. We're excited to have you join us on this journey. So come along to Novel Love Hearing, we're waiting for you. As a small favor, please consider sharing Novel Love Hearing with your friends, family, in YouTube comments, on Discord, Reddit, or anywhere else you hang out online. Happy listening, and enjoy the ride. Chapter 98. This is my great opportunity. Green Zone, within the Kunlun Mountains. Whoosh! Inside a train floating low in the air with wheels made of clouds, a bald man looked at the blueprint in his hand, his face filled with emotion. This blueprint had dropped after defeating the Green Dragon boss. The Green Dragon often randomly spawns in various green zones, making it difficult to track. After several days of pursuit, he finally caught it. Only by going all out did he manage to obtain this blue-grade vehicle component in his hand. Deep Sea Shield. With this component, the train could dive underwater. Of course. Whether it could move underwater would require some special wheel components, such as the bunny cloud wheels currently on his train. He could finally return to his shaplane and explore the underwater labyrinth to uncover the mystery of that fortuitous encounter. A few days ago, he encountered an extremely unique level 2 train. That level 2 train, equipped with the spider leg component, effortlessly climbed a nearly 90-degree cliff. That scene had deeply shocked him. He initially thought many big shots had entered this area and would compete with him for the Green Dragon boss. But over the past few days, he discovered that this news seemed to be known by very few people. He thought so. He had spent a great deal to obtain this information, it shouldn't have become common knowledge like cabbage. Moreover, he never saw that level 2 train again, only encountering a few flesh trains. Those maniacs. Kunlun Mountains. A green zone with no mineral resources. Nothing but monsters, high-level monsters everywhere, making it far more dangerous than other zones. No train liked entering this area, except for flesh trains that upgraded components by collecting monster flesh. The man shook his head, not dwelling on it. He picked up a razor and carefully shaved the stubble that had just grown on his head. A habit from before the apocalypse. Then, he entered the coordinates for shaplane into the control panel. With the roar of the engine, the train hovering low in the air shot toward the distant clouds. The Azure Dragon train, roaming the world. Several hours later, the bald man had successfully arrived at shaplane and driven the train to the lakeside. Then, with the sound of gears turning, the cloud wheels of the train stationed by the lake were slowly retracted into the carriage. Several mechanical arms extended from both sides of the carriage, quickly twisting and hammering underneath. Soon, several propellers emerged from the bottom of the carriage. With a crisp clang, the wheels were successfully replaced. The entire process took 1 minute. So convenient. Sitting in the train's cockpit, the bald man looked at the prompt on the control panel indicating the successful replacement and couldn't help but smile with satisfaction. This was the charm of the yellow-grade component mechanical arm. This component, paired with the train auxiliary eye, could perform some highly complex tasks. Such as replacing the wheels. Before having this component, every time he needed to replace the train's wheels, he had to park the train and have the onboard mechanics get out to replace them at various connection points between the carriages and wheels. The more carriages, the longer it took. Each time, it took over 10 minutes. With this yellow-grade mechanical arm component, the entire process now took just 1 minute. As a level 5 train, he had many more rare components than other trains. Most level 5 train conductors focused on mining to develop their trains, spending most of their time mining to quickly upgrade components and train levels, avoiding boss fights whenever possible. But he always believed that sharpening the axe doesn't delay the chopping. He preferred to seek out bosses when the train was well armed or actively look for fortuitous encounters to obtain more rare accessory blueprints, allowing the train to develop in multiple areas. What's the use of having a high train level if the foundation is weak? It would still crumble at the slightest touch. Take the underwater labyrinth fortuitous encounter in the lake before him. This was a target he had been planning for an entire month, and now everything was finally ready. Let's begin. The bald man sat in the train's cabin, his eyes full of anticipation as he gazed at the calm lake surface. He slowly pushed the control lever, and the level 5 auxiliary universal wheel beneath the carriage began to roll. This was an auxiliary wheel, unable to provide much power to the train. It mainly assisted in turning. Using this wheel as a power source was like a small horse pulling a big cart. But in this situation, it was a decent auxiliary power source for entering the lake, as he couldn't rely on the propeller wheels to get the train into the water. The next moment, boom! The train slowly plunged into the lake, and upon contact with the water, a light blue barrier enveloped the entire train. This was the effect of the deep sea shield, protecting the train from water pressure and preventing water from entering. Simultaneously, The several propellers beneath the carriage began to spin wildly, and the dazzling headlights formed two long beams illuminating the path ahead. The train began its descent, heading straight for the coordinates marked with A on the control panel. 20 minutes later, the train finally reached the lake bed and saw a magnificent golden palace situated at the center. At the palace entrance was a long road, with a round archway at the end. On the road, there were guiding markers. Above the palace entrance floated several large white characters. Underwater labyrinth. The train slowly landed on the road and drove along it into the palace. Surprisingly, although the palace was built underwater, there wasn't a drop of water inside, and there was plenty of oxygen. Then, on the train's control panel, a line of text appeared. Please disembark, train conductor, and choose your maze difficulty. How amazing! The bald man's eyes flashed with astonishment. This was his first time encountering such a fortuitous encounter located underwater. He didn't dare delay, stepping out of the train's cabin and standing in the palace, which had a ceiling over 10 meters high. The vast and empty palace. Even his originally massive train seemed insignificant in comparison. The next moment, in the palace's air, 5 large screens appeared, with one more screen above them. Welcome, train conductor of the Azure Dragon train, as the first explorer of the underwater labyrinth fortuitous encounter. Perhaps one day, humanity will scatter like stars, taking root in the corners of the galaxy. But no matter how far we go, the spirit of those adventurers who possess the spirit of exploration will forever be engraved on the monument of civilization. To venture into the unknown, not because it is easy, but because it is hard. True belief is not in the certainty of success, but in the willingness to risk everything for the 1 in a million chance of a miracle, even in the face of possible failure. As the first explorer, whether you successfully navigate the maze or not, you will receive a consolation prize. If you succeed, there will be a regional broadcast for prestige points, and you will receive additional rewards. Please choose your maze difficulty. Once chosen, it cannot be changed. The bald man felt a bit embarrassed looking at the lines of text on the large screen. Was he really that great? He felt a bit shy from the praise. Then, he turned his attention to the maze difficulties displayed on the 5 screens. S-rank difficulty maze, your consciousness will descend into a robot body, appearing on a random train. The train conductor of that train will carefully arrange a static maze for you. If you reach the end within half an hour, you will successfully pass. P.S. The components and armed personnel on that train cannot attack you, and you cannot attack any components or personnel on that armed train. The train auxiliary eye on your train will possess the robot, giving you extraordinary thinking abilities. The robot has the running speed of an adult male, and the train's carriages are limited to a maximum of 18. Reward, 30 Murphy Stones. A-rank difficulty maze, you will fall asleep and enter 99 layers of dreams. If you wake up within 24 hours, you will successfully pass. P.S. If you do not wake up within the time limit, you will be forcibly awakened. Reward, 20 Murphy Stones. B-rank difficulty maze, you will enter the underwater labyrinth behind the palace with 999 nodes after losing 4 senses. If you reach the end within 6 hours, you will successfully pass. P.S. The 4 senses lost are shape, sound, smell, and taste, retaining only 1 sense, touch. Reward, 10 Murphy Stones. C-rank difficulty maze, your consciousness will possess a goblin monster, entering an extremely dark place. You need to find a pickaxe and a mine in the darkness and mine 12 units of iron ore within 24 hours. P.S. Beep. Beep. Search failed. This task difficulty cannot be selected at this time. Reward, 5 Murphy Stones. D-rank difficulty maze, you will enter the underwater labyrinth behind the palace with 999 nodes while retaining all 5 senses. If you reach the end within 24 hours, you will successfully pass. P.S. It is recommended to wear a smartwatch, as this maze will significantly increase your daily step count. Reward, 2 Murphy Stones. Phew. Standing beside the Azure Dragon train, the bald man looked up at the 5 screens displaying different maze difficulties with their respective rewards. His attention was immediately drawn to the generous rewards. His chest heaved, his breathing unconsciously quickened, and his eyes filled with greed. This was a huge windfall. He had been to so many train fortuitous encounters and had always heard that personal fortuitous encounters had many special items as rewards, but he had never encountered one. He never thought he would stumble upon one today. A personal fortuitous encounter. And the reward was precious Murphy Stones. If he could complete the S-rank maze difficulty, he would gain a whopping 30 Murphy Stones. He could hardly imagine how many top-tier components with supermodel effects the Azure Dragon train could upgrade with 30 Murphy Stones. Even the lowest difficulty level offered 2 Murphy Stones. Moreover, he was the first trained conductor to explore this area, meaning if he could successfully complete the task, he would gain prestige points and additional rewards through regional broadcast. This was truly a huge win. The bald man carefully examined the 5 difficulties. The first S-rank difficulty was familiar to him. The S-rank task for the mechanical train job change was to arrange a maze. So, was the consciousness inside that robot a real person? When other trains were doing this S-rank job change task, were there real consciousnesses inside the robots? Were there other dungeons with the same S-rank maze task? This one was labeled S-rank but seemed the easiest. Regarding the mechanical train S-rank job change task, he knew several trains had attempted it, but none succeeded. He had never seen a mechanical train with S-rank potential on the leaderboard. He loved exploring and had been to many green zones. He had seen a few flesh trains with S-rank potential on the leaderboard, but he had never seen a mechanical train with S-rank potential. In other words, the failure of these train conductors meant his success. Damn it. The bald man's eyes were bloodshot, filled with intense greed. He had wondered why that train on the supermodel effect count leaderboard, which had always been below him, suddenly gained 4 or 5 supermodel effects in an instant. Could it be that they had the luck to stumble upon a fortuitous encounter like the underwater labyrinth and completed this S-rank difficulty maze task, taking away 30 Murphy stones? The more he thought about it, the more he believed it. He didn't even want to pay much attention to the other difficulty tasks, as they were truly difficult. Unlike this S-rank difficulty task, which was simple and had generous rewards. Without hesitation, he resolutely and firmly chose the S-rank difficulty maze task. Then, he couldn't help but let his thoughts drift, his eyes unfocused as he chuckled foolishly. 30 Murphy stones, regional broadcast, prestige points, additional rewards. This fortuitous encounter was worth it. All the planning he had done for the underwater labyrinth fortuitous encounter for an entire month was worth it. It was all worth it. After he made his choice, the several screens in the palace's air slowly dissipated and merged into one screen. Train conductor of the Azure Dragon train has successfully chosen the S-rank difficulty maze. Searching for a corresponding train. Search failed. No available train for descent. Issuing one-time special item consciousness transmitter. When a suitable train for descent is found, the consciousness transmitter will emit a piercing alarm and flash red. Press the button on the consciousness transmitter within 1 hour, and regardless of your location, your consciousness will be transmitted into the robot body, officially starting the S-rank difficulty maze. Then, several rays of light appeared in the air, slowly solidifying into a device resembling a walkie-talkie, which fell to the ground. Hey! Seeing this, the bald man rushed forward, quickly picking up the consciousness transmitter from the ground. He anxiously checked it several times, ensuring it wasn't damaged, then muttered. Be gentle, don't break it. This is my great opportunity. Chapter 99, The 10 Rules of the Stellar Train. Afterward, the bald man cherished the walkie-talkie like a treasure as he returned to his train compartment. Sitting in front of the control panel, he caressed it several times before carefully placing it to the side. Then he spoke. Mom. When this walkie-talkie beeps and emits a red light, turn the train's sound system to maximum volume. No matter what I'm doing at the time. Sleeping or even taking a dump. Wake me up. The next moment, a mechanical, pleasant voice echoed through the train compartment. Received. Every train conductor could name their train auxiliary eye to make it easier for the eye to receive commands. He had named his eye Mom. His real mother had passed away after multiple unsuccessful chemotherapy treatments before the apocalypse. After completing all this, the bald man finally relaxed, leaning back in his chair, grinning with anticipation as he stared at the walkie-talkie on the table. He hoped it would soon emit that piercing sound, allowing him to quickly claim the nearly free reward. As for not being able to find a train to descend upon, that was perfectly normal. The S-rank job change quest for the mechanical train was absurdly difficult, almost impossible for a human to complete. Only a fool with a death wish would choose it, even though there were 2 chances to select a job change quest. But to complete an S-rank job change quest, one would have to invest a lot of time, energy, and resources. In the apocalypse, no one would be foolish enough to waste so much effort on a nearly impossible task. But he wasn't worried. After all, in this world, there was no shortage of stubborn people. He believed it wouldn't be long before some train conductor stubbornly chose that S-rank job change quest, and he would gleefully deliver a painful and despairing blow to that train conductor, making them realize what reality truly was. 30 Murphy stones. The bald man stared at the 3-dimensional train diagram on the control panel screen, biting his fingernails with a furrowed brow. How should I spend them? Maybe use 2 on the makeshift heavy machine gun. Using Murphy stones on green tier vehicle components is the most cost-effective. Just 2 Murphy stones can give it a supermodel effect. No, having just 1 level 5 makeshift heavy machine gun isn't enough. Plus, I'd need 2 more for the heavy machine gun bullet production line. This is such a headache. I've never fought a battle with such abundance. It's so hard to decide. Mom, do you have any suggestions? I suggest waiting until you have the 30 Murphy stones before thinking about this. The train auxiliary I's voice came through the sound system. Alright, Mom, you're dismissed. Go play. The next day, Chen Meng woke up from his sleep, stretched lazily, and then looked out the window at the gathered slaves, smiling with satisfaction. He had slept well last night. The train had successfully leveled up to level 3. And he had also found a way to complete the S-rank job change quest. This put him in a particularly good mood. He glanced at the train panel. Including the iron ore the slaves had brought back yesterday, the train now had 196,000 units of iron ore. Today, his task was to craft and upgrade the components for the level 3 train. In 2 words, splurge. These 2 iron ore mines were almost depleted. The resource detection radar showed there were still about 30,000 units left to mine. They would likely finish by noon and move on. The resource detection radar also showed that 5,000 meters below, there was a high-level rare resource mine. A level 3 Crimson Heartstone mine. It was estimated to yield 1,800 units of level 3 Crimson Heartstone. Although he didn't currently need this resource, nor did he know which component it could be used for, he still planned to mine the Crimson Heartstone after finishing the iron ore mines. Mainly because the quantity was so small. Only 1,800 units. With so many slaves, they could mine it in an hour or 2. It would be a quick task, and then they could head to other iron ore mines in the afternoon. The Iron Ridge wasteland was rich in iron ore, enough for them to mine at a leisurely pace. After planning all this, he finally turned his gaze away from the window and casually said to the door, "Come in." Soon. A young woman carrying a tray carefully pushed the door open, placed the tray on the control panel, and whispered, "Lord Meng, Vice Train Conductor Zhu asked me to prepare breakfast for you. From now on, I will be responsible for delivering your breakfast, lunch, and dinner." Chen Meng glanced at the woman and said indifferently, "You may leave." A few days ago, he had asked Lao to select 10 women to clean the train and 1 specifically to clean his compartment. This woman was the one Lao had chosen for him. She was responsible for his daily meals and tidying up his compartment regularly. Her looks were decent. Even without makeup, her skin was smooth. However, her clothes, though washed many times, still looked old and worn, which didn't leave a great impression. Yesterday, he had tried to exchange iron ore for wood on the train radio, but in the Iron Ridge wasteland, there were only 2 ways to obtain wood. The first was to go to the molehills to cut down trees. There were large logging areas there, which were part of the Iron Ridge wasteland, not a separate region, just a local name. But the terrain there was too uneven for the train to navigate, making mining difficult and costly. The second method was to occasionally find a few scattered trees in the Iron Ridge wasteland. Cutting them down could yield 100 or 200 units of wood. It wasn't much, but it was enough. After all, Level 1 and Level 2 trains didn't require much wood. For those minimal needs, cutting a few trees in the Iron Ridge wasteland would suffice. His demand, however, was significant. The clothing customization production line needed a lot of wood to produce 2 sets of clothes for over 1,000 people. His plan was to outfit every slave and thug with 2 sets of clothes. Then, the colors of the clothes for Level 1 slaves, Level 2 slaves, and so on would differ. This would clearly define the hierarchy, and adding a stellar train arm patch to the clothes would make it more uniform and official. The train radio didn't have enough wood to offer. Later, they would head towards the molehills, mining iron ore along the way until they reached the molehills. After breakfast, Chen Meng had Li Shiji, who had been waiting at the door, come in. He lit a cigarette, leaned back in his chair, and frowned at the blueprint Li Shiji handed him. To be honest, he wasn't nearsighted, but looking at this blueprint, he felt like he was seeing double. The blueprint had a large cube outlined with dotted and solid lines, marked with several 1, 2, 3, and so on, along with numerous dotted lines. In the bottom right corner, there were corresponding annotations. 1. Refrigerator. 2. Mirror. 3. Sound system. 4. Curse words. A minute later, he put down the blueprint and looked at Li Shiji, who was standing nervously in front of him. Relax. I understand the refrigerator and mirror on this blueprint, but what do the curse words mean? Lord Meng, it's like this. Li Shiji took a deep breath and explained, the robot we're dealing with has intelligence far beyond the humans. Since it possesses such extraordinary intelligence, it must have some human emotions. And human emotions have many negative aspects that can be exploited. For example, doubt. When the robot encounters a fork in the road with 3 paths, we can mark the left path as a dead end and actually make it a dead end by not placing any refrigerators there. It would be an obvious dead end. After doing this a few times, the robot should start doubting itself when it sees these signs. Also, mockery. We can write mocking slogans on the walls, like "A maze I made with my foot is as hard for you as a car leaping over the Dragon Gate." This will affect the robot's state of mind. When people are frustrated, they often lose rational judgment. If the robot has human emotions, it will surely be affected. Even if the robot has no human emotions, it's just a few extra lines of useless text on the wall. It doesn't hurt, and it might help. Chen Meng silently looked down at the maze blueprint again. Suddenly, he felt like this was a bit over the top. At first, he thought the S-rank job change quest for the mechanical train was nearly impossible. But when he remembered he had a level 10 refrigerator, he suddenly felt it wasn't entirely out of reach. Now, after hearing Li Shiji's idea, he began to wonder if the half-hour time limit was too short. After a while, he looked up at Li Shiji again. "In a few days, I'll have a new carriage built for you along with 100 refrigerators. You'll need to fully construct the maze from this blueprint in that carriage. If you have any other ideas in the next few days, feel free to add them." "No problem, Lord Meng." Chen Meng watched Li Shiji leave, his eyes narrowing slightly. Although he thought the maze blueprint was already perfect, it was still just a theoretical sketch. Once the maze was built, he would have a few slaves test it to see how long it took them to get out. Then he shook his head. Turning back to the train panel, he prepared to start crafting the components that could be made after the train reached level 3. At that moment, outside the train, the slaves were gathered together. Lao stood below the carriage, holding a piece of paper with Lord Meng's handwriting. He looked up at the slaves, his voice amplified by the car audio. "These are the 10 rules that all members of the stellar train must follow. Violators will be punished. 1. Rape or molestation of any female, male, goblin, or any other creature that joins the train in the future will result in death. 2. Stealing iron ore, food, or other resources from others will result in 10 lashes and a demotion in treatment level. 3. Those who engage in fights will be punished. 10 lashes for the instigator and a demotion in treatment level. 4. Rioting or inciting rebellion will result in death. 5. Unauthorized taking of another's life will result in death. 6. Hiding iron ore, copper ore, or other resources will result in 10 lashes and a demotion in treatment level. 7. Carrying weapons, train tokens, or other items while on external duties will result in death. 8. Leaking any confidential information about the train to the outside world will result in death. 9. Attempting to escape will result in death. 10. Strictly follow and execute every word train conductor Lord Meng says. Disobedience will result in death. After reading out the 10 rules of the stellar train that Lord Meng had decreed, Lao put away the paper and looked at all the slaves with an expressionless face. "Now that you know the rules, start mining." Then he handed the paper to a woman beside him. "Make 4 copies and post one in each slave carriage." Understood. With these 10 rules, or rather, laws, the stellar train finally became a bit more formal. In this lawless and chaotic world of the apocalypse, having some rules provided a sense of security rather than just being constraints. "This is great." Biazi grinned as he watched all this, his eyes filled with satisfaction. He had truly witnessed the stellar train grow from just 1 carriage to now having 11 carriages and over 1,000 slaves. And the stellar train was already a level 3 train. By the way, Lao stopped Biazi, who was about to go on patrol. "Lord Meng is planning a major reform for the train soon. He mentioned it to me. We'll need 2 more teams of thugs. You're the first team. We'll need a second and third team. Each team will have 10 members, including the captain. Your current manpower is a bit insufficient. With over 1,000 slaves, there's a lot to manage every day. Lord Meng wants you to select some candidates from the slaves." Biazi frowned, deep in thought for a while, then glanced at a muscular woman among the slaves and hesitantly asked, "Can we have female thugs?" "You mean her? She's not a bad choice. Find a few more backups. If Lord Meng says no, we'll have replacements." "All right. Uncle Lee, do you really think someone would rape a goblin?" In the group of slaves heading towards the mining area, a young man walked beside Uncle Lee, resting his pickaxe on his shoulder. He glanced at the goblins also heading towards the iron ore and shrugged. "But it's quite something. Never thought the first time I'd see a law against raping males would be in the apocalypse. It feels a bit surreal." Uncle Lee narrowed his eyes without speaking. He seemed to have thought of a new plan. The most important piece of information in these 10 rules was the demotion in treatment level. Currently, there were only 3 treatment levels on the train. Level 1 slave treatment, Level 2 slave treatment, and Level 3 slave treatment. Thugs didn't have treatment distinctions. Even Li Shiji, who rose through his expertise, only had Level 1 slave treatment. Lord Meng couldn't let Level 1 slave treatment be the highest, nor could he avoid differentiating thug treatments. From the information revealed, he vaguely guessed that Lord Ming was likely planning a major overhaul of the train, with the core being the treatment levels, clearly defining the treatment everyone received. This also meant that if he seized the opportunity, he could rise during this overhaul. Chapter 100, Assassin's Creed. Uncle Lee, what are you thinking about? Seeing that Uncle Lee hadn't responded, the young man curiously leaned in closer and asked with a puzzled expression. Uncle Lee glanced expressionlessly at the young man beside him and said impatiently, I've already come up with a new plan. Just wait patiently. Initially, when this young man struck up a conversation with him, he had been willing to chat a bit longer. He had seen potential in this young lad and planned to make him a trusted confidant once he rose to power. But now, he often wondered if he had made the wrong choice. It was frustrating. Great. The young man nodded with satisfaction, giving a thumbs up. Keep it up, Uncle Lee. I always knew you were the best. Inside the stellar train, having finished handling all the trivial matters, Chen Ming sat alone in the train compartment. After glancing at the 196,000 units of iron ore, he immediately began crafting in full swing. First, there were 4 essential components to build: the mechanical nanite spider, combat training virtual space, internal space stabilizer, and individual exoskeleton production line. He spent 4,000 units of iron ore to craft them all. The mechanical nanite spider was shaped like a mother spider roughly the size of a fist, occupying minimal space. Made entirely of steel, it looked like a finely crafted figurine. It was connected to the train auxiliary eye, which would assess the damage level of the components and then control the mechanical nanite spider to produce enough nanite mechanical spiders for repairs. He spent 45,000 units of iron ore to upgrade it directly to level 10. Upgrading yellow tier components required more resources, with each level costing an additional 1,000 units of iron ore. The upgrade effect of this component was that each level allowed it to repair higher level components. For example, a level 3 mechanical nanite spider could only repair level 3 damaged components, while a level 10 one could repair level 10 components. At the same time, he also gained 2 supermodel effects. Mechanical nanite spider level 5 supermodel effect, increases repair speed. Mechanical nanite spider level 10 supermodel effect, produces more nanite spiders simultaneously. Both effects were quite practical. The former saved time, while the latter allowed for repairing more damaged components at once. These effects often went unnoticed during routine maintenance, but during combat, they played a significant role. Producing nanite spiders consumed iron ore. Chen Ming looked at the control panel screen, which showed the living carriage number 4 at 62% integrity and the cola production line component at 78% integrity. Repair all damaged components on the train to 100% integrity. Understood, the eye's mechanical yet crisp voice soon echoed in the compartment. Total iron ore consumption required, 3,800 units. Proceed with repairs? Proceed. In the next moment, the steel spider placed on the control panel slightly raised its abdomen, and countless incredibly tiny nanite mechanical spiders crawled out from its birth canal. A dark swarm of them slithered through the gaps in the compartment door. Normal spiderlings were already small, looking quite delicate and even somewhat cute. But these nanite mechanical spiders were about 1/20th the size of a normal spiderling. About 3 minutes later, Chen Ming glanced at the control panel screen again. It now showed that all the train's components had been fully repaired. He raised an eyebrow, impressed. This component was quite useful. And most importantly, cost-effective. Replacing all those damaged components would have cost tens of thousands of units of iron ore, but repairs only required 3,800 units. The number of nanite spiders needed and the iron ore consumed varied depending on the component's tier, level, and extent of damage. Despite its small size, Chen Ming decided to place the component on the table next to the control panel as a decorative piece. It looked quite nice. As he looked down, he noticed the immediate self-destruct and immediate ejection buttons on the control panel. The immediate self-destruct button had a plastic cover to prevent accidental pressing, while the immediate ejection button, which originally had nothing, now also had a plastic cover. This was a new option he found in the personalized customization menu after upgrading the train to level 3. It allowed him to add a fingerprint-locked plastic cover to any button on the control panel for 100 units of iron ore. There was no reason not to install it, though unlike the immediate self-destruct button, it didn't require confirmation on the screen. Next, Chen Ming turned his attention to the combat training virtual space component, which he had placed in Thug Car number 5. He stood up, left the compartment, and made his way to Thug Car number 5, ready to experience it firsthand. Biaozi and the others were outside supervising the slaves, so they weren't in the carriage. Only Ji Chaku and a few minor celebrities were inside, chatting and playing around. When they saw Chen Ming enter, their smiles quickly vanished, and they stood in a row, murmuring nervously, "Lord Mang." Chen Ming nodded without looking at them, his eyes narrowing as he focused on the machine in front of him. It resembled a hydrotherapy pod, with a leather sofa inside and a glass cover on top. When someone lay inside, several suction cup wires would attach to their scalp, projecting their consciousness into a virtual space. It would also fill with nutrient fluid to ensure the user's physical health. After studying it for a while, Chen Ming stripped off his clothes and lay naked inside the combat training virtual space. As the nutrient fluid filled the pod, his consciousness was projected into another space. A pure white area, about 10 square meters in size. Without the distinct boundary lines, it would be hard to discern the space's dimensions. Chen Ming looked down at his arms, raising them and waving them a few times. A look of astonishment flashed in his eyes. This wasn't just realistic. It felt like reality itself. Every movement was identical to real life, and the texture of his exposed skin felt the same. He slapped his left arm and felt a faint pain. However, he wasn't naked here, he was wearing a simple white outfit. Wow! Chen Ming swung his fists in the air with satisfaction. Before he had been transported to this world, he had always wanted to experience the kind of virtual online games described in novels. But he never expected that something he couldn't experience in his previous world would become possible here. In front of him, several panels popped up. This space is a combat training virtual space. Any injuries or deaths experienced here will not affect your physical body in the real world. Pain sensitivity is fixed at 100%, identical to the real world. There are 2 modes, single-player training and multiplayer training. Single-player training includes the following options: climbing training, dagger training, hand-to-hand combat training. There is also a mission training mode. You can select the number of enemies, change maps, choose weapons, and set mission parameters. Multiplayer training allows you to engage in combat or mission training with other users in the combat training virtual space. At level 5, you can also participate in ranked matches with users from other trains. Your ranking will increase your train's reputation based on your performance. Chen Ming raised an eyebrow, a hint of amusement in his eyes. He took a deep breath, his nerves gradually tightening as he selected the single-player mission training mode. He chose a city ruins map, with 10 enemies all armed with guns. The mission objective was to eliminate all 10 enemies using only a dagger. The modern city had turned into ruins, with a storm raging across the entire area. It was midnight. On the collapsed 3rd floor of a building, Chen Ming lay quietly on the rooftop, his eyes fixed on the 10 enemies patrolling with guns in front of an office building. He gripped his dagger tightly, waiting for the right moment. Suddenly, a bolt of lightning streaked across the sky, illuminating half the sky. Seizing the opportunity, Chen Ming sprang up like a rattlesnake, grabbing the steel rope of a nearby crane to swing behind the enemies like a primate, ready to begin his assassination. However, as soon as he jumped, he saw that the 10 enemies had already aimed their guns at him. Rat-tat-tat. The sharp, muffled sound of gunfire rang out in the rainy night. Ugh! Back in the white space, Chen Ming couldn't help but inhale sharply, looking down at his abdomen. The bullet wounds from earlier were now like illusions. His body was unharmed, but the stinging pain still lingered in his mind. This was the first time he had experienced what it felt like to be shot. It hurt. The despair of impending death felt incredibly real. The mission, of course, had failed. Chen Ming shook his head and chuckled. In real life, he would never have chosen this method for an assassination, but since this was a virtual space, he couldn't resist trying to emulate the assassins from Assassin's Creed in his previous life. The idea was good. If he could actually execute the moves he had envisioned, it would have been an incredibly cool scene. In the rainy night, amidst the city ruins, as the lightning illuminated the sky, a shadowy figure would land behind the 10 enemies like a ghost, beginning the slaughter. By the time the thunder sounded, the enemies would already be lying in pools of blood. All that remained would be the silhouette of a man holding a dagger, walking steadily away into the distance, blood drops merging with the rain as they fell at his feet. It would have been so cool. Chen Ming narrowed his eyes, another brilliant possibility surfacing in his mind. The modern city had turned into ruins, with a storm raging across the entire area. Not a single neon light was visible. The faint crescent moon beneath the clouds was the only source of light. This time, he chose a spawn point on the rooftop of an office building. Standing at the edge of the rooftop, Chen Ming leaned out, looking down at the 10 enemies gathered at the building's entrance. The rain pelted against his body as he murmured, "This is probably going to hurt a bit, isn't it?" It was a full 36 stories high. But who could resist a leap of faith when you can't die? Huff. Chen Ming took a deep breath, slowly standing at the edge of the rooftop. He pulled his hood over his head. The outfit in the combat virtual space could be customized at will. In the darkness, he turned his back to the void, spreading his arms like a ghost before leaning backward and falling straight down. A few seconds later. Thud. A dull, muffled sound, like something hitting a pile of meat, rang out in the night. Back in the white space, Chen Meng grimaced as he stretched his body, but he couldn't help but smile with satisfaction when he saw the mission summary panel. Not bad. He had taken out one enemy. In the face of the leap of faith, even enemies armed with guns couldn't withstand his assassination. He had gained new insights into the art of assassination. He then tried out various other maps and scenarios, having a lot of fun in the process. It was quite thrilling, but he also wanted to try the multiplayer mode. Biaozi, Lord Ming wants you in Thug Car number 5. What for? He said he wants to spar with you. What? Biaozi, who had been patrolling, froze in place as Lao approached him. A look of confusion flashed in his eyes as he muttered, what kind of sparring? The kind where Lord Ming has a soaring dragon assault rifle and I'm barehanded? I think I can see my great-grandmother waving at me. Don't overthink it. Lao couldn't help but laugh. It's not that serious. From the tone of his voice, Lord Ming seems to be in a good mood. Go on, it should be fine. Still feeling uneasy, Biaozi entered Thug Car number 5 and looked around. Ji Chuku, who had been resting in the carriage earlier, was nowhere to be seen. Only Lord Ming was inside. He approached Chen Meng, who was standing nearby, and whispered, Lord Meng, you called for me. Chen Meng waved his hand, pointing to the 2 combat training virtual space units on the ground. Come over here. I just got these. They're like virtual games where you can fight in a multiplayer mode. Any injuries or deaths in there won't carry over to the real world. Playing alone isn't fun. Let's spar. What? What do you mean what? Hurry up. Soon, in the white space, on a dueling platform, Biaozi, holding a dagger, looked at Chen Meng, who was standing in front of him with a dagger as well. He asked nervously, Lord Meng, should I make the first move? Fight seriously. Chen Meng crouched slightly, his eyes fixed on a dagger in Biaozi's hand. If you win, I'll make you the leader of the first team. If you lose, you'll be demoted to the second team. Hearing this, Biaozi, who had been hesitant, immediately became serious, a glint of ruthlessness flashing in his eyes. Then forgive me, Lord Meng. The next moment, a 3-second countdown began above the dueling platform. As the countdown ended, both of them regained control of their bodies and charged at each other almost simultaneously. Chapter 101, Can you bless me to find a level 3 iron ore mine? The next moment, the two collided, without any technique, without a trace of martial arts, only pure desire for battle and slaughter. You stab me, I stab you. Extremely pure. 30 seconds later, Chen Meng, covered in wounds, pulled his fingers, dripping with sticky blood, out of Biaozi's eye socket. Staggering to his feet, he grimaced in pain, forcing a difficult smile. Not good enough. Immediately after, a flash of white light, and Chen Meng's injuries were completely healed. He disappeared from the arena, reappearing in the white space, but this time Biaozi was also there. Lord Meng. It hurts. Biaozi's eyes were full of helplessness. I was so close to winning. I want to try again. I didn't hit a vital spot. You gouged my eyes just now. Can I gouge your eyes this time? I didn't dare to do it before. Sure, come on. On the arena, the moment the countdown ended, the two charged at each other again. Ah! A heart-wrenching scream echoed through the arena. Then, Biaozi, lying on the ground, frantically stabbed his own neck with a dagger. Seconds later, he turned into white light and disappeared from the arena. In the white space, Biaozi looked at the panel that popped up in front of him. Detected that your mental state is on the verge of collapse. Would you like to clear the pain and phantom pain to avoid side effects? Confirm. A few seconds later, Biaozi, gradually calming down, let out a long sigh of relief. He turned to look at Chen Meng, his eyes full of shadows and fear, trembling as he spoke. Lord Meng, it really hurts when your balls explode. Can we stop? Sigh. Chen Meng patted Biaozi's shoulder, somewhat reluctantly. Alright, let's call it a day. Haven't you ever been in a fight before? In a fight, of course, you prioritize attacking the weak spots. Well, usually, when we fight, we don't grab each other's balls or gouge eyes. That's a bit over the top. Enough. Chen Meng waved his hand and then instructed, you're still the captain of the first team. In the next few days, pick 20 more thugs for me. I'll make 8 more, combat training virtual spaces, later. From now on, 2 teams of thugs will patrol and supervise, while the other team stays in the car to train. Understood. Leaving the virtual space, Chen Meng glanced around the environment of the number 5 thug car. He spent 4,500 units of iron ore to create a level 10 refrigerator. After placing the 2 combat training virtual spaces inside the refrigerator, he made 8 more combat training virtual spaces and put them in the refrigerator. Although this virtual space can't increase physical strength, it can enhance practical experience, pain tolerance, combat experience in different terrains, teamwork, and more. A very useful component. And Chen Meng also spent 45,000 units of iron ore to upgrade one of them to level 10. The upgrade effect of this component is that it can increase the level of nutrient solution and extend the usage time. A level 1, combat training virtual space, can last about 5 hours, level 5 can last 9 hours, and level 10 can last 14 hours. And it also gained 2 supermodel effects. Combat training virtual space level 5 supermodel effect, can connect with other trains for competitive matches and participate in ranking matches to earn the spot on the leaderboard. Only compatible with users of trains of the same level. Combat training virtual space level 10 supermodel effect, training in the virtual space will enhance physical strength in reality. Chen Meng looked at these 2 supermodel effects and smiled. Both of them are quite powerful. The first supermodel effect. It allows users to connect with other trains for competitive matches. He had already seen this on the panel in the white space. For example, if he enters this space now, he can compete in ranking matches with all level 3 combat training virtual space, users in this world. A fair arena match. Rising in rank will earn a spot on the leaderboard, thereby increasing the reputation value of the affiliated train. He had already learned about the existence of reputation value from the train auxiliary eye. Whether it's a regional broadcast or appearing on such leaderboards, it will increase reputation value. He had once received a regional broadcast when he got the first kill on those 2 rabbit bosses. But it didn't show up then. Reputation value only appears for level 4 trains. All reputation value obtained before that will be hidden. When the train reaches level 4, it will show up and have its corresponding effects. The second supermodel effect is simply on a whole other level of brokenness. It's truly over the top. He originally thought this thing could only improve combat experience, but now it turns out it can also increase physical strength. This will greatly enhance the individual combat ability of the thugs. Very good. He likes it. Yellow grade components can only be upgraded to level 5 at most, so the first supermodel effect is something everyone has a chance to obtain. But the second supermodel effect isn't so easy to get, as it requires Murphy Stone. Most importantly, Chen Meng's expression gradually turned strange. Not all components have supermodel effects, and not all supermodel effects are strong. He could easily imagine someone spending 2 Murphy Stones on a green grade component like the fabrication table, eagerly waiting for the level 5 supermodel effect, only to find out that it says none. What a mood. They'd probably smash the fabrication table on the spot. Who wouldn't be furious? He glanced at the train panel. There were still 92,000 units of iron ore left. He immediately spent another 45,000 units to upgrade the internal space stabilizer component to level 10. This component is installed in every car, including the exterior of the train. It's a tiny thing, similar to a level. Its effect is to keep the car in a horizontal and static state when the train is in a non-horizontal or abnormal state. A kind of black technology. This component's upgrade has no effect. Even at level 1, it can keep the interior stable when the train is rotating 360 degrees. After upgrading to level 10, it gained 2 special supermodel effects. Internal space stabilizer level 5 supermodel effect. When the train is rapidly ascending or descending, the train crew will not be affected. Internal space stabilizer level 10 supermodel effect. When the train is in a vacuum, all items and members inside the train will remain unaffected. 2 very buggy supermodel effects. But he won't be able to use them anytime soon. Rapid ascent. This term is quite unfamiliar when applied to a train. He doesn't even know when his train will be able to fly. As for the second supermodel effect, vacuum. Alright, old friend, take a rest for now. Chen Meng looked at the remaining 44,000 units of iron ore, almost all used up. He decided to save this bit for unexpected emergencies. When these 2 iron ore mines are exhausted, it will be time to leave. 2 hours later, the slaves began to return to the cars in an orderly manner, bringing back 30,000 units of iron ore. These 2 level 2 iron ore mines had been completely depleted. Immediately after. Vroom. As the engine roared, the stellar train once again drilled into the depths of the earth, heading straight for the level 3, Crimson Heartstone, mine. Another 2 hours later. The Crimson Heartstone mine was also depleted, yielding 1,800 units of level 3 Crimson Heartstone. 1 unit of level 3 Crimson Heartstone is equivalent to 100 units of level 1 Crimson Heartstone. So, although it took very little time, he obtained 180,000 units of Crimson Heartstone. Inside the stellar train, which had already emerged from the ground and switched to wind-fire wheels, racing towards the Mo Hills. Chen Meng looked at the 180,000 units of Crimson Heartstone on the train panel, filled with emotion. Level 3 mines are really satisfying. The return is so high. If only he could find a level 3 iron ore mine. 20 minutes later. Chen Meng frowned slightly, looking at the resource detection radar that hadn't beeped. It's not that it hadn't beeped at all, just that it hadn't detected any high-level resource mines. It did encounter a level 1 iron ore mine 800 meters underground. But he couldn't be bothered to stop. It would waste his time. In the time it takes to mine a level 1 iron ore mine, he could find several level 2 iron ore mines. He parked the stellar train on the wasteland and left the train compartment alone, walking to the side. He lit 3 cigarettes and stuck them into the ground. After patiently waiting for them to burn out, he looked up at the cloudless sky and murmured, "Heavenly Lord, can you bless me to find a level 3 iron ore mine?" Logically speaking, the Iron Ridge Wasteland should be able to produce level 3 iron ore mines. After all, even a level 3 Crimson Heartstone mine appeared, so a level 3 iron ore mine should be normal too. It's just that he's never seen one. After doing all this, he returned to the train compartment and continued to steer the stellar train, roaring into the distance. Did I forget to offer incense to Master Kun? Although he and Master Kun had some grudges while he was alive, Master Kun has helped him a lot since his death. Sending slaves, blueprints, and startup resources. He's truly a benefactor. Without Master Kun, it would have been much harder for him to get started. He's a person who remembers kindness. He should offer incense to Master Kun. This time, let's skip it. I'll do it next time. Half an hour later, the resource detection radar began to beep. Inside a cave 300 meters underground, there was a level 2 iron ore mine, estimated to yield 150,000 units of iron ore. Level 2 iron ore mine. Alright. The drill bit at the front of the stellar train began to spin rapidly. Accompanied by the buzzing noise, the train drilled straight into the depths of the earth, quickly reaching the cave 300 meters underground. As the train came to a stop, the oxygen generator started working. The slaves, urged by the thugs, left the cars and headed to the mining area nearby, picking up their pickaxes and starting to work again. The pleasant sound of pickaxes striking iron ore echoed through the cave. Inside the train compartment, Chen Meng looked at the last component he had to make, the individual exoskeleton production line. With the additional 30,000 units of iron ore he had just replenished, his iron ore reserves reached 73,000 units, so it wasn't so tight anymore. He spent another 45,000 units to upgrade it to level 10. And placed this production line in car number 2. Car number 2 is where he keeps all his production lines, such as the pickaxe production line. The upgrade effect of the individual exoskeleton production line is that it can produce higher level exoskeleton armor. Level 1 exoskeleton armor can enhance overall physical fitness by 1.1 times, while level 10 can enhance it by 2.0 times. That's double. This is already an extremely exaggerated figure, but it still depends on the individual's physical fitness. Someone who is already physically strong will become even stronger with this exoskeleton armor. But if someone is weak and frail, even with the 2x enhancement from the exoskeleton armor, they will still be weak. It won't make much of a difference. And the price of level 1 exoskeleton armor and level 10 exoskeleton armor is the same. Both cost 40,000 units of iron ore per set. After upgrading to level 10, it also brought 2 supermodel effects. Individual exoskeleton production line level 5 supermodel effect, automatically repairs slowly when damaged. Individual exoskeleton production line level 10 supermodel effect, resource consumption for production is halved. The supermodel effects are quite ordinary. The former is only useful during wartime. Normally, nanite mechanical spiders can handle repairs. If there's no rush, you can also wait for it to repair slowly. As for the latter, its effect is definitely ordinary. The original price was already expensive, at 40,000 units of iron ore. Even after having the resource consumption, it still costs 20,000 units. But this thing isn't just for thugs. It can also be used by slaves. If every slave has a set, their work efficiency would double. It's just that the price is too high. 20,000 units per set. For 1,000 slaves, that's 20 million units of iron ore. Come on. If he had that much iron ore, would he even need to worry about these things? He'd just go to the Kunlun Mountains and massacre all the monsters there. Moreover, he realized that the number of slaves he has and their work efficiency are already quite high. 1,000 slaves are more than enough. After all, in higher level areas, he's bound to encounter level 3 iron ore mines. With 1,000 slaves, a level 3 iron ore mine can be depleted in a day or two, but the amount of iron ore obtained would be several times that of a level 2 iron ore mine. 1,000 slaves is already enough. The real challenge later will be finding and successfully mining higher level iron ore mines. He walked up to the production line. A probe extended and quickly scanned him from head to toe, recording all his body data. After consuming 20,000 units of iron ore, a set of individual exoskeleton armor perfectly tailored to his body was produced. Overall, it looked like the skeleton of a cadaver in a medical school. Except it was entirely black and made of steel. Like putting on clothes, he pressed the entire individual exoskeleton armor close to his skin. It was light, with no sense of heaviness, almost merging with his body, like extra bone growth. Boom. Chen Ming tentatively threw a punch, and a faint sonic boom was heard. A hint of surprise flashed in his eyes. This thing works quite well. Most importantly, it doesn't have the heaviness of a mech suit. It doesn't affect his movements at all. Worn under clothes, it's completely invisible from the outside. And it doesn't require any energy stones to function. The individual exoskeleton armor alone can enhance physical fitness. Chapter 102, Why the hell is it another damn treadmill? However, compared to mechas, exoskeleton armor still has some drawbacks. For example, if it were mecha, it might be equipped with heavy firepower weapons like shoulder-mounted rocket launchers and handheld Gatling guns, but these aren't major issues. If such firepower were needed, his train isn't just for show. At this point, all 4 craftable components after upgrading to level 3 train have been upgraded to level 10 by him. He is out of resources now. Chen Ming leaned back in his chair, tilting his head to look out the window at the slaves working outside. If they finished today's work and worked one more day tomorrow, this iron ore mine would be completely dug out, and he could start searching for the next iron ore mine. Moreover, he looked up at the underground river map of the Iron Ridge Wasteland displayed on the control panel screen and chuckled softly. He couldn't possibly measure every inch of the Iron Ridge Wasteland with the stellar train. The Iron Ridge Wasteland is quite large, and that would waste too much time. The last time he went to the ruins of Ping City, he scavenged a lot of information from the library, including the underground river flow maps of the Iron Ridge Wasteland. The iron ore mine he's currently at is also located in an underground river cave. Through these recent underground mining trips, he discovered that underground iron ore deposits mostly appear in caves. With this map, he no longer needs to search aimlessly like a headless fly in the Iron Ridge Wasteland. By following the underground river's flow, he can basically find 70% of the mines deep beneath the Iron Ridge Wasteland. As for the remaining 30%, one can't be too greedy. Tonight, he'll craft a combat training virtual space and place it in the train cabin. It's quite fun. Of course, what interests him the most isn't competing against others. It feels a bit dull. He's not too interested in ranked matches with other trains either. He's more intrigued by the mission modes in solo training. It's a chance to live out the fantasy of being an assassin. On just his second attempt, he successfully assassinated an enemy, and he even used a high-end assassination method known as the leap of faith. With a few more tries, he's sure he can achieve a flawless, injury-free run. What's your name? Biaozi found a woman who was as strong as a man, currently mining, and asked coldly. Me. Seeing Biaozi approach her, the woman hesitated before saying, My name is Zhang-san. Zhang-san? Biaozi frowned. Do you have a brother named Li Si? I'm asking for your real name. My real name is Zhang-san. The woman quickly explained. I have 2 older brothers. The eldest is called Zhang Yi, and the second is Zhang Er. Although we were all in Ping City, after the apocalypse hit, we never got the chance to meet up and eventually got separated. They're probably dead now. My brothers were incredibly strong. Stronger than you? Yes, stronger than me. The woman thought for a moment before giving an example. They once lifted a treadmill from a gym and even carried it on their backs while running a few laps. They were really impressive, though a bit single-minded. Did I do something wrong? Lord Mang needs to recruit new thugs, and I've taken a liking to you. Thugs? The woman was momentarily stunned before cautiously probing. Biauj, I know slaves can buy male meat based on the amount of ore they mine. How do thugs earn male meat? Through work hours and contribution points. If you make a significant contribution, Lord Mang will reward you. Come with me first, let's test your skills. Just being strong isn't enough. Thugs are sent on external missions to fight monsters. You need the right temperament and combat skills. Biaozi didn't say more. He simply turned and walked straight toward carriage 5 of the thug cars, with Zhang San following quietly behind. The combat training virtual space is truly a great thing. With it, you can engage in life and death battles without holding back, allowing you to clearly assess a person's combat potential and abilities in critical situations. Although this woman is indeed strong and has great physical strength, being a thug isn't just about raw strength. If you freeze up at the sight of blood, you're definitely not fit for the role. White space, on the arena. Biaozi stood coldly on the arena, holding a dagger, and looked at the mountain like Zhang-san across from him. The moment the countdown ends, the battle begins. It ends when one person dies. Injuries sustained here won't carry over to the outside world. Use your strongest attacks. Remember, I won't go easy on you just because you're a woman. I hope you won't go easy on me just because I'm a thug. Showing me mercy will only get you killed faster. The next moment, the countdown ended. Both of them lunged at each other almost simultaneously. No, they collided. 30 seconds later. I lost. Back in the white space, Zhang-san looked at Biaozi with awe in her eyes. Biao. Biaoj, you're the strongest man I've ever met. Even after I crushed your balls, you still managed to endure the pain and stab the dagger into my neck. I respect you. This 1.8-meter tall woman, covered in muscles, now looked at Biaozi with admiration in her eyes. At first, she feared Biaozi because of his status. After all, he's a thug, and she's just a slave. She definitely didn't dare to act out in front of him. But now, she respects Biaozi for his strength. This man is impressive. Biaozi didn't speak. He just stood there expressionlessly, silently looking down at his crotch. Was this the second time today? Brother, I've put you through a lot. My fault. But I have to admit, this virtual training space really helps you build a tolerance for pain. The first time Lord Meng crushed it, I felt like I was going to lose my mind. But the second time, I was still able to stab the dagger into this woman's neck before the pain killed me. He suddenly felt a bit of admiration for himself. The progress was fast. Could he really be a genius? After a moment, he sighed lightly. Keep mining for the next few days. I've noted your name. When it's time to expand the thug team, I'll submit your information. Master Fang, Master Fang, Master Fang. Stop calling me Master Fang. You're the masters, I'll call you masters, alright? On the Iron Ridge wasteland. Inside a speeding train, a man stood in the train cabin, glaring at the two burly men in front of him, angrily yelling, his spit flying everywhere. Last time I sent you to Ping City to scavenge for supplies, you emptied out a gym and brought back all the gym equipment. Damn it. You really managed to carry all that. That gym equipment is still sitting in the train, unsold. Who the hell are you going to sell it to in the apocalypse, huh? Why don't you go grab some protein powder while you're at it? Master Fang. The burly man on the left spoke in a deep voice. We looked, but there wasn't any protein powder in that gym. It was all taken. Damn it. The man nearly choked on his breath, taking a moment to compose himself before inhaling deeply, forcing himself to calm down. Alright, let's not talk about the protein powder for now, okay? Let's put this damn gym business behind us. Let's talk about now. This time, when I sent you to Ping City to scavenge for supplies, what did I tell you before you left? Repeat it. The burly man on the left answered without hesitation. Only look for survivors, food, and alcohol. Good. The man nodded heavily, then pointed at the treadmill next to the train cabin and roared, then what the hell did you bring back, huh? Exclamation mark. Why is it another damn treadmill? Huh? Weren't you listening? I said survivors, food, and alcohol. Master Fang. The burly man on the right weakly raised his hand and said somewhat pitifully, but we didn't find any survivors, food, or alcohol. So you brought back another treadmill? We only saw that. And thought we shouldn't leave empty-handed, so we brought it back. Hey. Master Fang plopped down in his chair, unable to help but laugh in his anger. It's true. People really do laugh when they're extremely angry. He didn't even know what to say. These two brothers' brains really don't work right. But they're extremely obedient to him. So no matter how angry he gets, he can only scold them a bit. He definitely can't do anything to these precious fools. Besides being unsatisfied with their scavenging, these two brothers really haven't caused any other problems. He took a deep breath, trying his best to calm down. After a long while, he finally spoke in a composed tone. Alright. Promise me, next time, don't bring back a treadmill, okay? Let's bring back something else. Okay. The two brothers exchanged a glance, then nodded solemnly in unison before tentatively asking, Master Fang, can we eat now? Eat. The man nodded expressionlessly. Let's eat. How could I let you two masters go hungry? I'll make it up to you, alright? Soon, night fell. Inside the stellar train, Chen Meng looked at the train panel. Including the iron ore mine this afternoon, he now had a total of 48,000 units of iron ore. After one more day of mining tomorrow, this level 2 iron ore mine would be completely depleted. He looked at the remaining 5 craftable components. Central air conditioning, storage box, permanent shock absorption, medical bay, unknown component. He immediately spent 3,000 units of iron ore to craft central air conditioning, permanent shock absorption, and medical bay. These were all yellow tier vehicle components. He only crafted them but didn't upgrade them yet. There wasn't enough iron ore. He couldn't craft the storage box yet, as it required wood, which he didn't have at the moment. Each of these 3 components required 45,000 units of iron ore to upgrade to level 10. He just had enough to feed the slaves tonight and tomorrow morning. He'd upgrade them once he had more iron ore tomorrow. He then spent another 1,000 units of iron ore to craft a combat training virtual space and placed it in the train cabin. Once again, he took off his clothes and entered it. Technically, he could wear clothes, but they'd get wet and need to be dried afterward, which was a hassle. The nutrient fluid in the combat training virtual space looked thick, but it didn't feel sticky on the skin at all. It was as smooth as water. After emerging from the fluid, his skin even looked cleaner, as if he'd been scrubbed by a bathhouse attendant. Back in the familiar white space. Once again, he stood on the rooftop of an office building, holding a dagger, and looked down at the enemies patrolling the entrance. Playing a round of Leap of Faith before bed was indeed quite fun. Time passed slowly. By the next evening, the iron ore mine had been completely depleted, bringing the train's iron ore count to 147,000 units. On the wasteland, under a sky full of stars, the stellar train, now equipped with wind-fire wheels, sped across the wasteland, following the underground river's flow to continue searching for mines beneath the Iron Ridge wasteland. After an hour, when they were about half an hour away from the Mo Hills, the radar finally beeped again. And it was a big one. "We've hit the jackpot." Chen Ming squinted at the resource detection radar, which showed 3 level 2 iron ore mines and 1 level 2 copper ore mine in an underground river cave 8,000 meters below. He couldn't help but grin. This was truly a big haul. He decided to have the train rest for the night. They'd head down tomorrow. Although they could get enough oxygen underground with the oxygen machine, it still didn't feel as free as breathing the flowing air on the wasteland. It gave a sense of freedom. Even though he had to flee when chased in the Kunlun Mountains, no one dared to mess with him in the Iron Ridge wasteland. If a level 3 boss tried to ambush him at night, it would just be delivering blueprints to him. If a level 3 train tried to ambush him at night, then he'd really like to see it. So far, he's only heard about level 3 trains on the train radio but hasn't seen one in person. He wondered how they compared to his level 3 train. When the sun rose over the Iron Ridge wasteland, the stellar train had already disappeared from the surface and appeared in an underground river cave 8,000 meters below. The slaves were already lining up to receive their food and prepare for work. The headlights and oxygen generator were already running. "This is great." Chen Ming stood by the train window, looking at the 3 level 2 iron ore mines clustered together in the distance, and smiled. With this patch of iron ore, he could finally upgrade all the remaining components for the level 3 train, then upgrade the armor to level 6, craft 100 refrigerators, and finish mining the deep mines in the Iron Ridge wasteland. After that, it would be time to leave the Iron Ridge wasteland. He'd head to the Green Zone to complete his class change quest and upgrade to a level 4 train. Everything was moving in the right direction. After mining this batch, he'd go to the Mo Hills to find a few level 2 wood fields. By then, the train would lack nothing. It would have everything. Then, he'd head to the Kunlun Mountains region and slaughter all the monsters there. Kill every single one he sees. Chapter 103. Has time flown by so quickly? In the cavern by the underground river, the imposing stellar train was parked to the side, its several headlights illuminating the entire cavern to the point of being completely visible. The humming oxygen generator was continuously consuming energy to maintain sufficient oxygen levels within the cavern. Having finished his morning routine and breakfast, Chen Meng lay down in the train's cabin to begin today's solo mission training in the combat training virtual space, his new toy which he found quite satisfying. He had just spent 45,000 units to upgrade his combat training virtual space to level 10, thereby gaining 2 corresponding special supermodel effects. The level 10 supermodel effect was that his training in the virtual space would directly increase his physical stamina in reality. Of course, the potential of human physical stamina is still limited. There's no possibility of training oneself into a superhuman through the combat training virtual space, but with systematic training, achieving goals like becoming a parkour expert or mastering the dagger isn't too difficult. 3 hours later, feeling somewhat bored, Chen Meng exited the combat training virtual space, stretched, and then headed towards carriage number 2, which was used to store various production lines, including the pickaxe production line. Before mining the Crimson Heartstone, he had upgraded the pickaxe production line to level 3 to ensure it could produce pickaxes capable of mining level 3 minerals. The cost to produce a level 1 pickaxe was 1 unit of iron ore. A level 2 pickaxe cost 10 units of iron ore. A level 3 pickaxe cost 100 units of iron ore. Now, he once again spent 4,100 units of iron ore to directly upgrade the pickaxe production line to level 10, enabling it to produce up to level 10 pickaxes. The price for a level 10 pickaxe was 1 billion units of iron ore. Sigh. This figure somewhat deflated him. Level 10 pickaxes were meant for mining level 10 mines. Additionally, there were 2 supermodel effects. Pickaxe production line level 5 supermodel effect, none. Pickaxe production line level 10 supermodel effect, none. He had once tried using a drill bit to mine. With the diamond-tipped drill bit easily reducing iron ore to powder, the experiment was indeed successful. The raised iron ore on the ground, resembling cauliflower, was indeed ground into powder, but not a single unit of iron ore dropped. He also tried attaching a pickaxe to a wheel, attempting to create a rudimentary automatic mining machine. Ultimately, it still ended in failure. Pickaxe. Only when held by a slave does it possess the effect of mining. This is the fundamental rule of this world. Chen Meng glanced over the various production lines placed in the carriage, beginning to ponder the matter of upgrading the train to level 4. Soon. 10 days later. By the cavern, the 3 level 2 iron ore mines, including 1 level 2 copper ore mine, were completely depleted. The train panel now contained 684,000 units of iron ore and 231,000 units of copper ore. Not enough, continue. Chen Meng narrowed his eyes at the iron ore on the panel, he needed more. Under his control, the stellar train immediately left the cavern and headed along the underground river towards the Mo Hills. Half an hour later, they arrived successfully. Looking out from the train cabin, Chen Meng saw the distant road conditions undulating like waves on the sea, albeit fixed. Without special wheels, the train would find it almost impossible to traverse such terrain, but it didn't pose much of a problem for him. Switching to spider leg wheels and spending 4,400 units of iron ore to upgrade the axe production line to level 10, it could now produce up to level 10 axes, though the price was still 1 billion units of iron ore. The 2 corresponding supermodel effects were also none. After producing 1,000 axes with 10,000 units of iron ore, the resource detection radar successfully found 2 adjacent lumber yards deep within the Mo Hills. The environment isn't bad. Chen Meng looked out the window at the lush green trees everywhere, which seemed much more vibrant than the wasteland. The slaves had already started entering the forest with axes to begin cutting. 2 days later, these 2 lumber yards had also been completely cleared, yielding a substantial 230,000 units of timber. Enough. There was currently no need for timber within the train, this amount would last him a long time. He immediately set off again, steering the stellar train along the underground river across the wasteland. Drip, detected a level 2 resource mine 2,000 meters deep, start mining. Drip, detected 2 level 3 resource mines 1,000 meters deep, start mining. Has time flown by so quickly? Inside the stellar train, Chen Meng sat on a chair, shaving his stubble with a manual razor. After finishing, he placed the razor aside, and a girl carrying a basin of water promptly approached. Using the water to wipe away the remaining beard, he let out a long sigh of relief, quite satisfied with the refreshed face he saw in the mirror. It had been a full 37 days since leaving the Mo Wasteland. During these 37 days, he had done only one thing. Following the underground river's veins, he had traversed the entire Iron Ridge Wasteland, mining every day without the slaves resting even a single day. It was no exaggeration to say he had almost mined every mine beneath the Iron Ridge Wasteland. Perhaps, besides the veins of the underground river, there were mines elsewhere deep underground, or even deeper than 10,000 meters. But he had no intention of searching further. The cost-effectiveness was already not favorable. He couldn't possibly navigate the train through the underground, which would allow the resource detection radar to cover a larger area and detect deeper mines, but at a much slower speed than on the surface. Including the iron ore accumulated in previous days, the train's resources had reached an almost astronomical figure! 3.654 million units of iron ore, 710,000 units of copper ore, 230,000 units of timber. Do you have a name? Chen Meng casually asked the girl quietly standing behind him in the mirror. This woman was selected by Lao from among the slaves to be specifically responsible for the hygiene and daily needs of his train cabin. She had performed quite well these days. She spoke little, had no extraneous thoughts, and worked efficiently. Zhao Feng. What did you do before the apocalypse? Elementary school teacher. He turned to glance at the girl behind him, nodding casually. Good, I like educated people. You can go now, I don't need you anymore. Yes, Lord Meng. After the woman left, Chen Meng quite satisfied with himself, adjusted his new clothes, looked at himself in the mirror, and smiled contentedly, leaning on a cane. After spending 4,400 units of timber to upgrade the clothing customization production line to level 10, he gained 2 supermodel effects. Clothing customization production line level 5 supermodel effect. The clothes produced have a good temperature lock effect. Clothing customization production line level 10 supermodel effect can produce high-precision clothes, which strongly enhance the wearer's aura, requiring 500 times the production materials. The cost to produce a set of clothes was 1 unit of timber. Extremely cheap. Moreover, it was customized. Compared to the price of 40,000 units for a set of individual exoskeleton armor, this was almost like giving charity. Even high-precision clothes, requiring 500 times the production materials, only cost 500 units of timber. The clothing customization production line upgrade didn't have special effects, only gaining 2 special supermodel effects upon reaching the corresponding levels. Tomorrow was an important day. Tomorrow would mark the day the train officially sets on its proper course, with various processes being formalized, and the title of slave would also be officially changed. He had specially made a set of high-precision clothes for his formal appearance at the opening ceremony tomorrow. As the train conductor, his attire also influenced those below him. If the train conductor was dressed splendidly, those below would feel reassured. If the train conductor himself looked shabby, those below would work in fear, worrying that the train might be breached by monsters any day. The train had no mines to dig today, so it rested on the wasteland. All slaves were given a holiday today and could rest freely in the carriages or near the train. Not bad at all. Chen Meng looked at himself in the full-length mirror beside him and smiled with satisfaction. He had crafted a black suit for himself. Once a suit is privately tailored to fit perfectly, it looks very dignified when worn. A slightly cheaper suit makes one look like a real estate agent. Paired with the white waistcoat inside and a black shirt, the layering was impeccable. Especially the hellstaff, which was the perfect finishing touch. At that moment, there was a knock on the door of the train cabin. "Come in." Li Shiji walked in holding a stack of blueprints. "Lord Meng, you asked me a few days ago to prepare armband logos for the stellar train. I've drafted a few, please take a look." "All right." Chen Meng sat on the chair and took the blueprints handed over by Li Shiji, reviewing them one by one. Finally, he placed one blueprint on the table and tapped it. "This one it is. I'll create a regular carriage and prepare 100 refrigerators for you later. Go find Lao and get some manpower to assist you in building this maze. Try to finish before dawn tomorrow." "No problem." Li Shiji responded seriously, then hesitated. "Lord Meng, could you also make some ordinary refrigerators? My idea is this, after the robot explores the maze for a few minutes, it will surely discover the uniqueness of these refrigerators. At that point, if we place an ordinary refrigerator at the deepest part of a high-end refrigerator, it would waste a lot of time going back and forth. Once it understands this setup, we could place 5 ordinary refrigerators and 1 high-end refrigerator. Enough, no need to say more." Chen Meng squinted slightly and smiled at Li Shiji, waving his hand. "I'll make another 200 ordinary refrigerators for you to use." He had already understood the situation. False, true. Quite tormenting. An ordinary refrigerator wasn't expensive, costing only 100 units of iron ore. Even 200 ordinary refrigerators would only cost 20,000 units of iron ore. The matters of the clothing armband and the S-rank job change quest were essentially settled. Today the train rested, and the slaves were on holiday. His task today was to consume the entire 3.654 million units of iron ore, which he had mined over more than 30 days in the Iron Ridge wasteland. First, he spent 480,000 units of iron ore to create a regular carriage and 300 refrigerators, upgrading 100 of them to level 10. It's worth mentioning. Whether it's refrigerators, single beds, telescopes, or makeshift heavy machine guns, when calculating scores on the Iron Ridge Wasteland Regional Leaderboard, it's based on the highest single item. Having 100 level 10 refrigerators doesn't mean they all contribute to the score. The stellar train currently has 11 carriages, not including the temporary one created for storing the maze. According to his plan, several more carriages needed to be created. Li Shiji's appearance had shown him that among these slaves, there might be individuals who were not unknown before the apocalypse, excelling in certain industries. Such talents could assist him unexpectedly at any time. Therefore, he specially created 2 hard sleeper carriages for advanced personnel. 1 carriage for men, 1 for women. Talents enjoying advanced treatment would usually reside in these 2 carriages. Each hard sleeper carriage had bunk beds, totaling 18 beds. He placed these 2 carriages between carriage number 4 and carriage number 5. The current layout of the train was The train head, for him alone. Carriage number 2, stored all his industrial production lines, such as the pickaxe production line, heavy machine gun bullet production line, and off-road motorcycle production line, etc. Carriage number 3, all stored bullets, copper ore, timber, and other resources were also placed in this carriage, which now housed several level 10 refrigerators for bulk storage of minerals. Carriage number 4 was used for placing moldy bread slice production line, cola production line, steamed bun production line, and other daily life production lines. Laju and others would come to this carriage when making food for the slaves. Carriage number 5, hard sleeper carriage for advanced female personnel. Carriage number 6, hard sleeper carriage for advanced male personnel. Carriage number 7, hard sleeper carriage for thugs, with 2 level 10 refrigerators in the corner. One refrigerator contained 10 units of the combat training virtual space, for training, and the other refrigerator contained several single beds for newly recruited thugs. Carriages number 8 and 9 were used to house the 101 human slaves, with carpets already laid on the ground. Carriages number 10 and 11 housed the 121 goblin slaves, with 4 level 10 refrigerators housing the over 800 new slaves who had joined the train. Carriages number 12 and 13 were the firepower carriages, providing long-range firepower support, equipped with the 40-tube cherry blossom rocket launcher, and the repeating ballista,